Hello. It's been a long time since I've done a review. I'm had a lot of had health issues and some other things going, mostly over them. So I'm back to do a review of my um, uh, Recording King 12 string guitar that I recently purchased. This is my second Recording King guitar. Some of you may have watched my videos of my first Recording King, my parlor guitar. So I have the two extremes here. I have the biggest Recording King guitar and their littlest one, their parlor guitar. Uh, Little explanation. I've been wanting a 12 string guitar for well over a year. I spent a lot of time researching and comparing. I have only so much money I can spend, so I wanted to get the most bang for my buck. And I looked at the low end because I really try to get value. And I looked at like the Van Gogh 12 string and the Fesley 12 string. But here I'll let you know why I went with the Recording King and why for me it was the best value. And for you it may be the best value, maybe not. And I'll explain why. I purchased mine at my local music store, Campbell's Music, which is mostly a guitar store. They sell a few other things, but they've been in business for over 40 years now. And, and anyways, they're a Recording King dealer. Now, they don't have most of them in stock. They order them for you. But the nice thing about you order, you pay in advance. I got this at the same rate I could have bought it online, $2.99. Now, and I got a couple advantages of buying it there local versus buying it online, and why it might be a better value. Why it was a better value for me to buy it that way. One, I bought it from a local store. First off, if there would have been a problem with it when it arrived, if there would have been damage or anything, he would have handled it. He'd have shipped it back and got another one. And he would have more credibility with them being the dealer than I would have. I wouldn't have to explain all. They would just took it back, no problem. So right there, I was ahead of the game. It was pre-inspected to make sure there was no damage. The other advantage why they were a great deal was he includes a setup with all new guitars he sells. Now, this isn't an exhaustive setup that you pay hundreds of dollars for where he's polishing the frets and everything. Let me go over what he covers in the setup. He checks the nut to make sure all the slots are okay. If not, he'll recut the slots. He checks the neck relief to see if it needs adjustment on the truss rod, so that the relief is at right. He checks the action on the strings to make sure within normal specs, so that, and if it would be too high, he would lower it. He would do that work to lower it. He also takes a fret leveling tool to check that there aren't any frets that are sticking too high. If one would stick too high, he would do one of two things. He would either see if he could tap it back into a place where it should be, and if he couldn't get it easily adjusted without a lot of work, then he would chip the guitar back and get you a new one. So I know. So when I got the guitar, I know it doesn't have any high spots. It's not going to have buzzes from where a high fret is. Their neck relief set, all that, and that has value, because if you take a guitar you did not purchase to some place, even on a 6 string, they usually are going to charge you $60 to $75. You take a 12 string in, they're going to charge you $90 to $125 or more dollars to do a setup. So when I looked at like the Van Gogh and the Fesley, with shipping here, they were running for like 169, yeah, 169 or so. So or even 189, till I paid for a setup, I was getting real close to the price of this. Plus, this came with a solid top. The Van Gogh and the Fesley were both not laminate, and they sounded okay. So, but I had my mind up. I wanted a solid top one, and I was even willing to spend some money. But and I had narrowed it down to 3 guitars. I was either going to go with this one or the Martin DX-12, the one that comes from, is made in Mexico, or I was going to look at the Guild 2512. The Guild 20-12 I could have got from like um, um, any of the ones online. Uh, I could have got for like $5.99 or something, somewhere in that price range. I could have got from a musician's friend or somewhere. I could have got the Martin from the local dealer, but it was even or there or online it was going to be $800. So substantial difference in price. You know, even I bought a case from another place, paid like $120. I could buy this and the case for half what I would have paid for the Martin, and for about 50%, and I still would have had plenty of money spent if I would have bought the Guild. But I would have spent the money, but I did a lot of comparing on YouTube, listened to as many videos as I could of each of the three being played, play them back to back to back to back. Well, the Guild, the one thing that turned me off in the Guild was it had great mid-range and up-range, but it had terrible bass. Not that was a big part, but it kind of bothered me. And the Martin, it had great bass and it had great sound. But I kept listening to the difference between that and the Recording King. I kept saying $300 versus $800. I just couldn't get $300 worth of, or $500 worth of value in the little bit of difference I could hear in the sound. In fact, the difference was so little that I suspected that my playing ability, I wouldn't sound any better on that Martin, only if it was psychologically. I wouldn't sound any better on the Martin than I would on the Recording King. So, and as far as materials, all those had a solid top. The Guild was laminate, back and sides. The Martin was HPL. So I wasn't getting, an all solid. Because to get an all solid 12 string, you're probably talking well over $1,000, at least probably around 1,100. I think the one Martin 12 or the one Taylor 12 string might be just right around $1,000 mark. But to get it, and even then I'm not sure, 100% sure that one is all solid. But the all solid, I know all solid in Guild, you're right around $1,200. Martin, a solid one, they have one that's like about $1,700, and then you get up into the $2,000. Great guitars, but I can't justify that. It's diminishing returns for me. I'm just, I'm not professional. I never will be a professional. I have no plans to be a professional. I just wanted to enjoy the sound of a 12 string. So I got my 12 string, and the other thing that really influenced me was the fact that I had such a good experience with my other Recording King, my parlor guitar. Because one thing about 12 string that does concern you is how well does it stay in tune. Now, I know that's a very different construction in that parlor guitar, but it's made of the same materials. All the materials in it are the same materials that's in this 12 string. The only difference is this 12 string has different tuners, but everything else, the wood, it's the same material for the back, sides, and the top. So I thought, well, because that parlor guitar, I play it twice a week. I go to the Cerebral Palsy Home on Wednesdays. We have a church we do a service there, and I lead the songs. I play there every week, and then I play in my Sunday school class where I lead the music every Sunday. And I play twice a week, and I usually don't practice on that one. I practice on my other guitars. I just keep that in my case and take it there. Many times, I don't have to tune it from one time to the next. I mean, I put the tuner on. I check the tuner every time, but many times I don't even have to make an adjustment. And if I do, it's maybe one little bar off on one or two strings. It just holds, the tune very well. So I just took the chance at this one. This one is holding the tune pretty well. Due to factors that was going on at work and this and that, today was the first I tuned this up and got to really play around with it in 5 or 6 weeks. It's been around about that time. And it only had moved, I did not have to tune a whole lot. And considered how I've only had this thing, I got this thing in June. For all the amount of time I've had this thing, that's incredible that it's holding tunes. It's still so new, still these strings. This came with the Dario strings on it, which, so being a 12 string, I'm going to leave them on for a good while until I decide to replace them. When I do, I'll probably replace them with the elixirs just because that's my favorite strings. But so the other thing you'll notice, I have the capo on the second fret. Don't worry, I will play a little bit so you can hear the sound of it. But the the reason why I have the capo on the second fret, I did a lot of research on 12 strings, and one of the things that, in fact, it's one of the reasons why I didn't buy used 12 string. I was worried I wouldn't be able to judge it well enough that whether or not it had been damaged, because with all these extra strings on there, you got a lot more tension. The two biggest problems that happen on a 12 string from all my research was either your bridge is going to lift or the neck's going to bow from all that strain on it, especially if you play them in standard tuning. Now, I was on some of the sites, and some of them, well, every time I'm done playing, I back the strings off so it doesn't sit under that tuning. Well, I'm not about to do that on a 12 string every time I play, sit there, back it off, and then next time I go to play it, tune all 12 up to standard pitch. So I talked it over with the place where I bought my guitar, and he said he always recommends tune them either half or a whole step down. I elected to go with a whole step down. He said, well, I do a whole step down as long as I take my capo off when I'm not playing. That's stress. That neck's never going to lift. The bridge isn't going to lift. Now, for the short amount of time when I do have the capo, it's not going to lift. There's actually a second advantage to this, and I didn't even think about when I first did this. I've really gotten to appreciate playing short scale guitars. Like my Recording King, that's 24.2 inch. In fact, I've been really looking hard at getting a Dreadnought Junior because of the 24-inch scale. I've played several short scale guitars, and I really like it. I like my guitars that have 24 and 3/4. My Seagull is 24 and 7/8 versus the 25.4 inch because it's not as far a reach. Well, guess what? When I put this capo on here, I took it down here. I now have a 12-string guitar. That's what my Recording King is, because I still have 12 strings. In fact, they make sometimes purposely buy a 12-fret guitar. I have 12 fret there. And I've removed over 2 inches from the scale length. So I've taken that 25.4 down to about 23 and 3/8. So I now have even a little shorter scale length than on my parlor guitar, and so I have that shorter scale length. I still have 12 frets, and I'm not playing a lot of fingerstyle on it up the neck on the 12 string, so it makes it easier for me to play. So I got the advantages of having a short scale guitar and still having a 12 string, rather than try to buy a short scale 12 string, which I haven't seen anybody makes one. If they did, it'd be really expensive. So I get the advantages of having the short scale, and I just put the capo on. The other reason why I want a whole step, I've never been wild about the idea of putting a capo on the first fret, simply because that's a sharp break angle right there. When you put it on the second fret, it's much better. In fact, on my regular guitars, I usually don't like to fret. I like to fret at the third fret or lower, because first fret I've noticed on a regular tuned guitar will pull it out of tune much quicker than if it's down on the lower fret, because you're getting where there's less tension and you don't have that sharp break angle. But being tuned down a whole step, going on the second fret, it wasn't under as much tension to begin with, and then I got a less sharp break angle. So I have elected to go. I tell you, all those people I see posted who tune their 12 string down, I say 2/3 to 3/4 of them go 2 steps, not a half step. So I went with the 2-step. Now, some people will just not play with the capo one and just transpose their songs and use the chord shapes to play it as is. Well, that's just too much work for me to do all those thinking and doing that. So it's easier for me to just put the capo on at the second fret, then I can play like I normally do and just consider that my nut, and play like that. So that's the reason why I'm going with doing that, and I'm pretty happy with it. and it doesn't really knock it out of tune because it's lesser stress. And I put those on right because I tune it up, put the take cable on because I don't like adjusting those strings with the cable off. And I've noticed it doesn't. When I put the cable on, it doesn't go out of tune much at all. If it does just a hair, and when I take it off, it's very close to being in tune. It doesn't really drag. Now, one thing I will mention: if you're going to do half step or whole step, you're not going to be able to use like your cheaper tuners like a Snark and some of them because they're not chromatic tuners. They're only set to go to E and A and D and G and B. They're not set to go to when you tune it down like this, you're going to be tuning things to F. You're going to be tuning things so you're tuning to some other notes that you don't normally tune to. So I invested in this. I got it on I think it was a musician's friend. I bought this. It's called a Unitune. Unitune. It's a nice chromatic scale. They're very accurate, and I like the way the display is. By the way, anytime I recommend any of this stuff or my guitars, this is all stuff I bought with my own money. Nobody sends me anything. I don't got enough viewers to get that anybody sends me anything. So everything I bought is bought with my own money. So you might say, boy, all your reviews are always very positive. Well, it's because I do a lot of research, and it's pretty rare that I buy a piece of junk. So yes, my reviews tend to be positive because I usually have done plenty of homework and bought something that's pretty decent. But when I do a review, I know that because I buy budget things, I don't buy high end stuff. I know that anything I buy will have some compromise on there. So, so I will tell you any weaknesses that I see in this. So when you look at the aesthetics of this, like the dot markers are just painted on the fretboard. They're not inlays or anything like that. It's not a real expensive. The binding isn't fancy or anything on this thing, and it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it's not ugly either. It's a decent guitar. I mean, when I look at the brace, it has what they call their shifted bracing, X bracing, and just get a little few sounds out here for you. Now, I'm still not used to playing 12 string yet, so my fingers sometimes follow, and that's my fault, not the guitar's fault. But I'll just play a few things here. I'll play a little chords, and I'll finger pick a little bit, but I'm still having trouble when I finger pick hitting in their strings right. But I'm hoping with time I'll get used to it. Yes, I'm still not used to playing on a 12 string yet. But I just wanted to try to get you a little bit of it. Uh, Overall, I'm very happy with this 12 string. And the thing is, I didn't know if I would like 12 string or not. Well, I mean, I love listening to 12 string, so there's no doubt I like the music at 12 string. I just don't know whether or not I can learn to play a 12 string well. So that was another reason why I thought, well, I'll stick with this, because if I get decent at it enough that I want to get a better 12 string, I look at how much money could I lose if I go to sell this. I mean, I would think that at the most I would lose be $100 if I sold this, and being able to use it for however long till I decide I want a better one. $100 is not that bad to lose. Chances are I might only lose $50 on it because it's been set up and everything. I probably could maybe get 50. I might only lose 50, and now that's a real bargain to learn to find out if I like 12 string, because I really didn't want to spend a lot of money on a 12 string, only to find out, oh, I don't like 12 string. And I said, I seen some decent, okay prices. Well, the prices I saw in used 12 strings were a little higher. In fact, most of the used ones I saw were at least 250 to 300. I saw some Seagulls that I was interested in, but I thought if the person didn't take care of it right or kept it in regular tuning all the time, and that's it, I didn't want to have to take a big long straight edge to check the neck. And then if I hate to, and if I see it's not right, I hate to insult the person saying, nah, it's not in good shape anymore. And I didn't want to get in that conversation. And there was too big a chance of that happening on a used 12 string. So that's the reason why that I thought, well, this, I couldn't go wrong with it. Now, you may not be able to get the same deal I did. Maybe you don't have a Recording King dealer near you, and maybe they don't include a setup with it. So maybe you might be better off with spend the money on a Fesley or Van Gogh. But if you do, you're going to want to have a setup done on them, because the place I deal, he's done several of those, and he said they all needed setup. And that was the other thing, because most of the reviews I saw in the Van Gogh and the Fesley, some of the reviewers were able to do their own setup, so it was no big deal. But almost all of them said it needed setup, because it just did. And I thought, well, until I put that money in it, I'd be close to this. So why do that? Plus, because like I said, this is a solid top. Those are laminate. So, anyways, I just wanted to give you a few my initial thoughts and a mini review. This is, I guess, a mini review of this of the Recording King, and I hope the Recording King 12 string. I hope this will be a help if any of you are thinking about it. A 12 string, taking a look. I recommend it, especially if you have a local Recording King dealer where you can buy it from them and get a setup included. Now he told me he didn't have to do much. He said he told me he rarely has to do any work on Recording Kings when they come in. They come in, whoever they're dealing with in China does a good job. And he said he's not sure if Recording King doesn't have them come through some kind of QC at their headquarters here before they send them, because he said he has rarely had to do much on a Recording King. Mostly it's just checking everything just in case. Anyways, so how good a value it is to you really depends on your situation and the closest Recording King dealer you can, and what it would cost you to get a decent setup done. But I know the one, this set up pretty well. I said it's holding tune well. I am very happy with it. I think it's a really good value. So you'll have to make your own decisions. I'm just giving you my 2 cents worth. I hope to be back to doing videos here regularly, maybe every 2 weeks now. The situations have been taken care of, so I hope to be doing some more. I have some other instruments I've purchased, some other things I want to do some reviews on. Thank you very much, and you have a wonderful, blessed day.